Okay. So we just watched the JavaScript tutorial training that I put together on YouTube. What are some thoughts? Anything you want to expound on? Any questions you have? I'll try the best I can.
I have a question. What's the difference? I kind of missed the last little bit, but the difference between an array and an associative array.
Yeah, it's like they cut me off at about like 30 seconds before I wanted to end it, but it was close enough. So the difference between associative array and the regular array is the regular array uses indexes for the element. They use indexes to hold the elements, where the important stuff. Array that uses names instead. The index instead of using numbers will use names. However, JavaScript doesn't accept this. So some other programs do, but JavaScript doesn't. So I was a little confused why they had it on there for JavaScript associative arrays, but that's just the difference between it.
Okay.
Indexes names.
Yeah, I was reading it and I was thinking that's a good thing that since JavaScript doesn't accept it or whatever, that it's even. I wonder why they have it,
Yeah.
Maybe it's just so you get used to the idea for other
programs. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So yeah, that's just so we're aware of it, and maybe if we're going through and we saw the old version somewhere or something, I don't know. But I threw that in there, so that's why it's at the very end, and it's just pretty much we don't use it in JavaScript.
Okay.
So let me list what we covered then. So let's
I thought you did a really good job. Some great examples.
Oh, thanks. I was, it was late last night, and so I did not put a script together. Whatever was on my presentation, that was the only thing scripted. Everything else I kind of just did. I wanted to redo it, but it was close to midnight, and my son was needing some milk, and I was just like, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to try and pretty it up.
Oh, it was great.
Cool. So I had a page I can show you guys too. Has everyone played with JavaScript?
Yeah.
So you guys are pretty familiar?
A little.
Well, I can share just something really basic I threw together.
Okay.
I'm going to just share my screen here. Whoa, I hate that. There you go.
That's tricky.
Yeah, check that out. So a little bit of it has jQuery, which we're not going to discuss because the scope of this class doesn't cover that. But this top was solely for the purpose of changing the color of my divs on the left side. So I could type in even the word of a color and it'll change the div, or I can type in a hex decimal. I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. 23333. So with this example, it really is just this block of code in my HTML. And I have my div and then the input, which was the color that you can type in. And then your submit button that on click executes this function, display color. So it's pretty simple. JavaScript's kind of a fun little thing to get into. Once you know the basics of JavaScript, you can get into jQuery and other libraries. But once I click that button, it runs this function and it sets the variable for text color from this input value, color name, which is right here in my first input field. So all it does is collect that number in there, or the color, and passes it through.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's
nice.
Not too tricky there. But there's so many different things. Like you were doing a whole bunch of things with numbers. And I like that in the presentation because that's actually how I learned JavaScript was in that JavaScript class, the entry level one. I think it was a 160 or something like that.
Oh yeah.
But all we did was numbers all day.
Joy.
Yeah, good. So anywho, any questions?
So something I wanted to throw out there is because I'm not too good with using arrays in a practical way. Do any of you have any ideas of what are some practical ways to use arrays on the web?
I think if I have an example, but I'll have to take a moment here and see if I have one.
Because like all the arrays I've ever done are just practice, and so it doesn't like need any input from any users or anything. It's just something that, okay, click me, and then I'm going to show you results that my coding says should be what happens. So I haven't figured out on my own how to make it so that arrays are useful for a user to interact and do something or submit something and use an array to get a result.
See, I have an array in PHP, which would be similar, but not JavaScript.
Okay.
And what I end up doing, just so you know, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. The use of it. Let's see. Here, while I'm looking that up, you guys can carry on conversation.
Okay. So was there any questions like about variables or loops or anything like that? I know, just to clarify, because I messed up, but I corrected myself on the video, but yeah, not an if loop, but for loop, because the if is conditional statement. But for loops can be used along with do, do while, and then I believe for in or for each, depending upon who you are, what you call it. But those also can be used to accomplish things. Let's see if I can pull up the requirements for what we needed to talk about.
Okay, I have a question I just thought of. So last night I was looking up JavaScript for a while, so I was like, I need to like refresh my memory.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking at like Code Academy, and under the variables section, it was saying like let or t like variable. On other like W3 schools and stuff, it'll just say like var. So does anyone know the differences, like when you would use var over like let or const?
Const, like console?
It was like constant, like
constant.
CONN.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's don't have any knowledge. Let me try looking up.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering though, because it seems more common to see just like var written out to declare variable, but I saw that last night and I was like, like that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I've only used var before.
The only thing I can think of is just, I mean, at least when I type in for con JavaScript, I'm getting stuff in a different language. So maybe it's the word in a different language for that means var. I don't know, but that's just kind of what I'm having pop up is another language. Yeah. I'm not sure what it is. Well, KS, so it might be Spanish. It might be the Spanish word for it. Well, let's see.
CONST.
I have a little article I found on Stack Overflow. Or a little post. That's what it says. It's in the chat bar for you. But down at the bottom, it talks about if there's room for error, var should always be used.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Okay.
I've never used const, so I'm not sure. Personally, like firsthand.
Yeah, I have not either.
So
From what I
constant.
understand,
So my
you
understanding
can go
of
ahead.
reading it then is basically it's constant. You know, think of the word constant. So it makes it so while, like for the variables, we can keep changing it. Like, okay, I changed the variable the 3 into the variable of number, and then I changed the variable number into math problem. And so we can keep changing it. But at least reading the last paragraph of what was just put in the group chat, it seems like by putting the con, you make it so it's constant. It can't change. I think what it's saying. Not all information that never changes lifetime probably needs to be declared as constant. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
So at this point, you should be able to code a whole page on JavaScript now, guys.
A little bit of HTML semantics.
So, like the example, I guess you both did this, but so in Cody's example, you put the JavaScript in the header, and then let's see, Christopher, I think you had it on like a separate page. Did you just like call it in your HTML?
Now let me show you that just so you can see the external. It's in the head is where I call it.
Yeah, and then mine's also in the head too, which, you know, now that we got the HTML5 semantics, I guess header would be different than head, but I understood what you meant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let me show you the exact spot there. Okay, see my screen there?
Yeah.
So right here, I got my meta tags and my title, but the script is labeled script because it's calling the JavaScript page. That's all that's to it. It's just like calling a CSS style sheet.
Now I remember. Okay.
Yeah, so it's pretty simple right there. But when you start messing around with libraries and other stuff, it gets a little more complicated. But
yeah, and personally, I agree with you that I prefer to have it referenced or sourced into it and on a separate page because, you know, as you said, it can get more complicated if you're using a lot. But for the examples like I use, since they're simple, I prefer to do it in the head rather than the body because the head will load first on a page before the body. So it needs to, when the browser's trying to pull up information, it'll go through the head and then it'll go through the body. So I just kind of put it there. So everything falls into place when the body loads.
So one of my jobs, we constantly declared the actual JavaScript within the HTML page, and which is kind of messy if you have a whole bunch of scripts in there. At that point, I don't know why they end up doing it, but they threw everything down in the footer.
Really?
So the last thing to load, so all the HTML and CSS would load, and then the JavaScript. But I was trying to revamp a whole bunch of things there, so I'm not sure if that's best practice. So I started just doing the external page with the with that link or the script up at the top, and that way it calls the whole page on load, and then you can move on from there.
Yeah, I mean, that's personally what I like the most in my very limited knowledge and use.
Yeah. I've tried to find something about that array thing, but I'm just not seeing anything for JavaScript that's.
Yeah, that shows like an actual live interaction from the user.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah, I've tried too, and I couldn't find anything. Most I could do was just enter stuff in the code, and so when user just click submit or click me, and then it'll do stuff that I dictate. But that's it. So let's see, we got so I covered functions, variables, parameters, conditional statements, loops, arrays, and associative arrays in my training video. So we've talked a little bit more about loops. We talked a little bit more about the variables.
Let me see if I might have any code that might be of use too.
Yeah. And then was there any questions about parameters? For some reason, I was having a really hard time trying to think of something to explain it until I thought of that whole shelf analogy thing. I'm not sure, though, if that made sense.
That made sense.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Because for me, that was a hard concept when I first began learning. For some reason, parameters were just kept escaping me for a long time. But then I ended up catching on and realizing pretty much everything that's in a parentheses is a parameter. So even like trying to like get document, we have parameters in there, and anything within parentheses is a parameter. And then parameters can be also nested within parameter as well.
Yeah.
All right, if you guys want, I can show you my screen, and
Awesome.
I'll explain what my code does real quick.
Okay. Quick question: how do you show your screen?
Up in
I'm
the
still
top
new to
left.
Google Hangouts.
Up in the top left, you should see like a screen with a
screen
white
share.
arrow. Yeah. So you just click that.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Here.
Because that's why I did the whole video instead of trying to do it live, because I had no idea how to use Google Hangouts. So I just went with what I knew.
Okay, so can you guys see just fine?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a simple choose your own adventure game. Basically, you would go through and you could click it. Let me see if I can actually pull that link up real quick. So basically, it's your standard HTML and stuff. And then you'd have your choices here. So these are my divs that I did to design the button, basically. So then you'd have choice 1, choice 2, which would be 1, 2. And then here is where I'd start my JavaScript. So this is for like a simple game to where you go set up story, left.
Text-based.
Yeah, just choose your own adventure. So basically, it's kind of a big program, but so here's where we'd have our instructions, which would be the first page. And then you have your ID and then your choices first, second. And this first and second, those can be rotated between any 2, 3, 3, 4, 2, 5, 1, 5, anything like that to bring you to a different page, basically. It's just like another link, but without actually having to put in the link. Yeah, it's not too bad. And if you guys wanted to, I could send you the link for it. Sorry, my wife was texting me. She's a social work major, so she's learning about all the crazy stuff that happens in social work.
Oh yes, I'm kind of familiar with that.
Yeah.
Ian, if you want to throw that in the group Hangouts, it'll just be a good reference for everyone. Thanks, man. I think we covered a lot. It's just a lot to get into if you've never touched it before or you haven't touched it in a long time.
Yeah.
Which is part of the whole fluency stages, I guess, we're going to be going through. But.
I think did our calendar last time and only did 2 slots. He emailed back and said like 4 times. Do you think we should just go and like change our calendar so that we teach?
Yeah, I agree.
We definitely can. I never got the email though.
Oh, maybe it was an announcement, or maybe it was like on the our grade.
I can't remember either, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. I got that same thing too, where basically saying you need 4 times and yada yada yada. Basically, we needed to improve it a lot more because otherwise we weren't going to do well for the class.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Just so you guys can on the individual feedback, he told me that at first I saw most topics being covered once, then I saw the note in your spreadsheet that you would review later, which needs to be covered in additional time. This is a very good, mature approach. And then he said, same message here to all students. Only 50% is awarded. The remaining will come in 8 weeks to see if you followed through with your plans. So I don't know if we need to change anything, but we can if we want to. I'm not pro or against either way.
Did he say that we each have to do it 4 times? Like we have to for a grade, or is it just so that we can learn the material better?
Let me try and pull up wherever I got that from.
I think it was an email too. It almost sounded like it was for like the professional thing, maybe. I'll look it up too in my email, maybe.
If we have multiple people teaching, then we don't have to do things as long either. I'm thinking already Kayla's going to have to do a presentation on a full week already. So we're going to have 3 1 week. And
yeah,
this could turn into
where was it? Team meetings. Okay, an ideal meeting is 3 students teaching a different topic each for about 15 minutes. As 4 times. If you limit how often a topic is covered, you end up only teaching twice. That is not sufficient. Professionalism assignment in week 13, you need to show me how you supported the team, and only teaching twice is not enough. And adjust as needed. That was in the email he sent. I think it's in the announcement too.
interesting. Okay.
That's an idea. So if we did like 3 people each week, and if we kind of like scheduled in our reviews, because we know we're going to review, if we just like.
Okay, so how about I end the recording? We can still be in this room, but we'll continue doing this revamp of our schedule. Sound good?
Yeah.
Sounds good.